All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
And hello, all. Great to have you in the mix. Kim is here. Wow, she's worked us in again.
Kim, how are you?
Yeah. Got a lot going on there, Kim. And Tony is back. He's actually
Thanks, Tony.
not slept at all since running the Angels all night. What do you do all night with the Angels, dude?
I was all morning with the Angels. So that was from
okay.
5 a.m. until 10 a.m. I was there.
I see. So it's kind of like Angels Talk or something? Is that what they do?
It's they're in ESPN programming at the time when I'm there.
So you're kind of
it's
board-opping
just
ESPN.
board-opping, just a relay of national feed.
Oh, that's cool. Well, I'm glad you could be here, buddy.
Thanks, Tony.
I am excited that everybody's here. What a show. Tony, I will draw your attention in the hymnal to things that you need to pay attention to.
Okay, let me write
We've
those.
got Chunk of Trump coming up, so you'll need that at the ready. Right. I've also, I believe, I have Stories from the Sky coming up and Law and Disorder coming up. I know, it's a lot.
What?
It's the big three. Stories from Airbnb, and David Katz is here to sort out all the legal stuff today. Love it. Let's get it on. I don't know if I should start with an angry email that I received.
Oh, no.
But I feel as though that's on brand. I can't have too much happy. I can't have too much light. I can't have too much positivity. I got an angry email. So I'd like to share it. But before I do, well, let me do the email and then I will give you all the details on our anniversary meetup. We're doing our 1-year anniversary meetup. And this is our 1-year anniversary that we are celebrating as we are closing in on it. And just quickly, in 15 seconds or less, there's a lot that went into this show to make it even happen. And that we lasted a year is a big deal. And that we hope we have enough momentum into the future for the next year, that's a big deal. So I'm excited that there is a celebratory atmosphere to things and that people are throwing us some anniversary wishes. They've thrown us anniversary donations, all of these great things. Mm-hmm. But more than anything, they seem to appreciate how far we've come. So celebratory, you're right, is a ding word. Now, shall I? So I'm going to tell you on our actual anniversary day, which is October 12th, next Thursday, that night we will do a special 1-year anniversary meetup, virtual meetup. So we'll send you a link. You join. There will be only 20 people there because we want to actually be able to interact with everybody. If we have too many people, we just can't do that. And I think it'll be fun. And I'll tell you about it a little bit later, like in just a few minutes. But I want to get to this email, Kim, because it does involve you.
Uh-oh.
And
The Mark Thompson Show.
So I got this email. Let me put my credibility glasses on. It involves a story that you did yesterday, Kim. And here it is. Hi, Mark, Kim, Albert, and John. Oh, John gets a... Tony gets left out. I think you meant Tony, though. I'm going to say Tony.
Thanks, Tony.
Yeah. Hi, Mark, Kim, Albert, and Tony.
Thanks, Tony.
I want to comment on the news story.
Uh-oh.
Wherein, by the way, use of the word wherein, I will ding. You don't hear wherein much, do you?
Mm-hmm. No. That's strong.
Wherein a human driver hit a pedestrian. You'll remember that Kim reported on this yesterday.
I did say that.
Thus, throwing her body under an autonomous car driving in the other direction.
All true.
And then the perpetrator sped away. This guy is a fountain of ding words, by the way. I would ding as I did wherein. I can't ding it, but I do want to draw attention to thus throwing is a very, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well written.
He added thus. Yeah, you just don't hear all right, I'll ding it. All right. Thus throwing her body under an autonomous car driving in the other direction, and then the perpetrator sped away. Kim, he mentions you.
Yeah.
He says, Kim, your story focused on the autonomous car and how horrible the car was for stopping while the woman was under the vehicle.
Is that not horrible?
And Mark agreed with you.
Well, yeah.
Here are my comments, he says.
Why are you yelling?
Did you want the autonomous car to continue rolling over the woman until she popped out the back and then speed away like so many drivers in this city would do?
Maybe getting off of her leg would have been a good thing.
Of course the car should stop, he says, Kim.
Why are you yelling?
Maybe not on top of the person?
If the car on the other side of the street was an autonomous car, the pedestrian would not have been hit to begin with, Kim.
Why are you yelling?
The human who smashed into the woman then sped away should be the focus and the horrible part of the story, Kim.
Why are you yelling?
Not the autonomous car that did the right thing and stayed, Kim.
Why are you yelling?
No.
Please stop demonizing autonomous cars.
Oh, no. Yes. Wow. Listen.
Wait, it's not done, Kim.
Kim, how are you?
You guys are like the anti-vaxxers.
Oh!
Autonomous cars are much, much, much. He used three muches. Much, much, much safer than cars driven by humans, as this incident illustrates. This is a safety issue, Kim.
Kim, how are you?
If everyone were in autonomous cars, there would be exponentially, which I will ding, fewer accidents, and I would suggest never would a pedestrian be struck unless they flung themselves purposely in front of the autonomous car.
No.
We need to focus, and he's finishing here, this is the last paragraph. We need to focus on getting rid of the drunk, high, distracted, speeding, stolen car drivers and the other bad humans driving, human driving hazards on the road. In other words, other people that are causing accidents. And not pick on and not pick on Brett. That's very strong. He finishes really strong.
Oh.
He says, oops, I mean pick on autonomous cars.
Okay, yeah.
Well, that is from David. And
I've received a lot of positive letters.
I think
funny.
that he may have a point, Kim.
So was it wrong that the human driver hit the person? Yes. This happens every day in San Francisco to the point where they're considering banning turning right on a red light because so many people are getting nailed in intersections. Was it wrong for the driver to speed away? Absolutely. But when you're hit by an autonomous vehicle and it senses something's wrong and then comes to rest on your body with its axle and tire weighing down on your leg, a human driver would have felt that they were on top of something and rolled off it, alleviating that pressure. This woman was stuck under the vehicle for a while with her body being crushed by the weight of the cruise vehicle. So
Interesting.
Is
Yeah.
that different than a normal accident? Yes. So I have to say that while I do agree with your assessment of human drivers, I also think that we're not really focusing on what makes this accident different from other human-caused accidents.
No.
And that is that this person was crushed by the taxi.
Well,
the robo-taxi.
Kim, I think, has responded to your email, David, quite both succinctly and I think in a cogent way. By the way, alleviated, she used that word, and I will ding it.
Thank you.
I
do think his message was well written, though, and I appreciate the comments.
he's clearly an erudite dude, and I think he's He's added a lot to this conversation. And to be honest, I mean, I think you've acquitted yourself quite well in your response. I'm not
Thank
sure.
you.
I was kind of looking for an apology, like my words upset so many people.
Oh, I'm
Words
not
upset
apologizing.
So many people.
Or, you know,
No.
I stand corrected.
I
misspoke.
Yeah,
refuse to
right.
apologize.
All right. So let me just, I'm not going to press this point. I think there are interpretations around this incident. And so I think Kim's interpretation, while legitimate, presumes certain things not in evidence, as they say, like if you're on something, you roll over it. I think that's probably true. You go, oh my God, what am I on? You roll back, or you get out of the car to see, or which way it's safe to roll. Maybe all those things happen. So there are certain things, though, I would say, that then human beings can assess and make decisions about in a way that an autonomous vehicle cannot. That said, David's not wrong. If you only had autonomous vehicles on the road, you probably wouldn't have these sorts of accidents would not exist.
I don't know if
You
that's
might have
true.
other issues, though. No, you don't.
Our mutual friend John Daly spends a lot of time walking through the city, and has, at least on 2 occasions, been in an intersection where an autonomous vehicle has stopped just short of the crosswalk. So he's had some near misses, and I don't necessarily know that it's a perfect system yet. I think the beta test was ended too quickly.
All right. They did seem to rush it. We talked about that on the show. Anne says erudite and cogent, both ding words. That's true. Yeah, okay. And very well done. Yeah.
So you've been asking for these messages of support after the 1-year anniversary, the mostly videos and audio messages. Mm-hmm. Somebody sent in a poem. It's a poem that is not on video or audio, so we have to read it, and I'm happy to do it.
For our 1-year anniversary?
This is in support of our 1-year anniversary, and it's a poem.
Oh, well, that's nice.
You want me to read it now, or shall I hold it?
Well, I'm going to turn to Tony on this. Tony, do you think we should read it now, or should we hold it? What would you say?
Well, I mean, you've already teased it. You got everyone's attention with it. It'd be kind of mean to take it from them now, wouldn't
All
it?
right.
Tony, with his typical enthusiasm, says you should read it now. All
He
right.
says, we're in it now, Kim. All right.
All right.
Can you let him finish, sir?
I think he was finished. All right. So now, Kim, with a dramatic reading, do you feel
Yes.
comfortable with? Okay.
I feel
Kim,
it.
with a
Get into
dramatic
character.
reading of this poem, would you like to mention who sent it?
This is from Richard, who also goes by Mad Cowboy. All right.
So Mad Cowboy has sent us this for our 1-year anniversary.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Please proceed, Kim.
Come one, come all, and you shall hear an ode to a show we hold so dear. I'm not going to name them. I won't even try, because I promised myself I'm not going to cry.
Oh, I love it.
I'm not gonna cry.
You made us laugh with the stuff that you did. Now everyone knows it's the planet, stupid. You've got the greatest guests, funny bits, and more. Who's Mark Thompson? Party of 4?
Oh, yeah.
Today, I apologize to the Asian community. When I watch your show, I get a feeling of unity.
Oh.
We love you. We need you. We want you to know. Happy anniversary to the Mark Thompson Show.
Wow, that's a very good poem. I love it.
And I wanted to apologize
to the Asian community, the Asian American community. Very, very cool.
Thompson, Party of 4.
Right. Very, very cool.
I loved it, Richard. Really good. Thank you.
That was terrific.
Yeah.
We'll read it again next week, or in the days to come as we kind of close in on our 1-year anniversary. This is really cool. We've gotten some great greetings. And maybe now would be a good time to mention what we're going to be doing for our 1-year anniversary in terms of a special 1-year anniversary meetup. I mean, to be honest, this is one of the reasons we want to do this way. All of these various messages we're getting, they're really the special part. Yeah. And I really think it's cool that we've gotten, I pushed some of them to Tony. We'll run some more today. But I think it's cool that you guys have, supported the show and that you've sent us these messages. And if you want to send us an audio or video message you can do it. Will you put the banner up there for, this is to send an audio or video message. There it is. Less than 30 seconds if you can. Send a short video or audio. Happy anniversary MTS at gmail.com. And I got something from Ben, and I believe it's he's in Orlando, Florida. Listens to the show in Orlando, Florida. And
we haven't offended him with our Friday antics.
I think he likes
listening?
it. In fact, Ben, Tony, do you remember? Or Kim, you may recall, he was at our last virtual meetup.
Yes, I do. He's cool.
From Orlando, Florida.
Yeah.
So he sends this to us as an audio message.
Hey, Mark, what's up, dude? Ben from Orlando here. Always good to listen to you guys. I've been listening to you for quite a while now, and I couldn't be more excited that you guys are celebrating your very first anniversary. I'm so glad that you made it, and you're not living on the streets in Skid Row by now, and Albert's working at the strip club, and Kim, well, I guess out of everyone, Kim would probably be the one who makes it. But anyway, congrats again, guys. Keep up the good work. See you soon.
That is very, very good. Thank you, Ben. Of all of us, Kim's the one who's going to make it without the show.
Great.
The rest of us need the show, is what's happening there.
That's funny. Thank you, Ben.
Really cool. So you can send us, again, a little less than 30 seconds if you can do it, somewhere around that. Happy anniversary, MTS at gmail.com. Happy anniversary, MTS at gmail.com. I got an email that I'll share next hour with you and more. Now to the virtual meetup, which is next week, just in case you'd like to be part of that. It's the Mark Thompson Show anniversary night. That's right. We're actually going to do it on the night of our anniversary, which is next Thursday.
Is there going to be
tonight.
Cocktails and fancy, like, do we have to dress up for it? And there's going to be cocktail nuts and...
Well, we don't have dress code here.
Cheese wraps, or...
as you know, it's whatever you want to bring to the party. Yeah, it's a virtual meetup, so it's really stuff you have to load on in your place. Virtual meetup, myself and the team with some special guests stopping through. So if you want to be part of things, here are the 2 glorious hours we'll spend with everyone, 7 until 9, a week from tonight, October 12th, our actual 1-year anniversary. If you want to be part of things, here's how you do it. There's a limit to 20 people. You'll RSVP MTS Meetup at gmail.com. It's a $50 donation to the show, so it's a fundraiser too, but mostly, I think it's just going to be great fun. And again, we have to limit it to 20 so that we can actually interact and have fun with people. RSVP MTS Meetup at gmail.com. And when you do, we'll be in touch with you and then tell you, do the PayPal donation, and then it'll square away your seat. And so you'll be all set. Again, limit to the first 20 who get this all squared away. Now, I'm looking forward to it, and it's still coming together, and so I think it's really going to be something very, very cool. The
Mark Thompson Show.
I have to say, I almost want to read this now. Should I? How are we on time? Can I read this quick? I feel like we're...
Yeah.
I've got David next hour, David Katz coming.
Because we're stacked the next hour, so...
Yeah, really. We got a lot of Trump stuff, and we also have... other stuff as well. Supreme Court is making some key rulings. I think the future of many regulatory agencies hang in the balance at the Supreme Court. We'll talk more about that. This is from Sharon, and she has sent us an email just congratulating us on the show, and it's pretty...
I've received a lot of positive letters.
This is from Sharon. She says, "We are all so lucky to have you. Kim, Albert, and Tony." Yeah, Tony got a mention this time, which is kind of nice.
Thanks, Tony.
We're also lucky to have you, Kim, Albert, and Tony, weekdays to entertain and educate us and to bring us sanity and joy after the KGO station crashed and burned. I never thought Ron Owens could be replaced. Oh, Ron, I never thought you could be a player.
What the hell is going on in the United States of America?
I never thought Ron Owens could be replaced, but you and your crew have succeeded where no one else could. And I bet Ron would agree.
What?
Yeah. I support you with a meager monthly contribution as any more cuts into my Botox fund. I was thinking about getting Botox right here, but I haven't yet. But maybe I should contact Sharon. She could tell me the best way to go on it. Anyway, she says, I support you with a meager monthly contribution as any more cuts into my Botox fund, but you can count on me for my continued support. Love you all, 4 exclamation marks. P.S. Still waiting for my rod of equity and mercy, by the way. Sharon, wow.
What?
I think everyone who has written in or send us a message, they should be eligible, and if you're listening in replay, I'll remind you, you're not watching live. You are still receiving. All you have to do is receive, but you must receive. Put yourself in a place where you are receiving. Put yourself in a place mentally where you're receiving. And now,
receive the rod of equity and mercy.
For Sharon, for Ben, for Edward.
Receive the rod of equity and mercy.
The solemnity of the ceremony has overcome me.
Receive the rod of equity and mercy.
Very, very good. Thank you for your email. I love it. And please, if you want to reach out on our 1-year anniversary, do. We love hearing from you.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Now, Kim's news ahead. There's a lot going on. And before Kim's news, Tony, do I have a second to do something before Kim's news?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I will give you a choice. We can move all of this stuff, the Trump stuff, we can push it along a little bit. You may have heard also about the Pelosi. We talked about it yesterday, the yanking of Pelosi's office. Turns out the acting speaker, the temporary speaker, may not have even had the power to do that. This is while Pelosi's at Feinstein's funeral. The whole thing's pretty petty. I mean, this is the only thing it would appear the GOP can do now is, this petty stuff. They can start an impeachment proceeding against the president with no evidence. They can take people's offices. They can fight within themselves. It's utterly insane. They can shut the government down. But in terms of actually getting proposals on the books that may benefit the American people, they don't seem to be able to do that. So just because I've mentioned it, I'll tell you that the acting speaker, temporary speaker, doesn't have the authority to evict Nancy Pelosi. Yeah, this guy, Patrick McHenry, he's the Republican from North Carolina. He's Kevin McCarthy's handpicked temporary successor, acting speaker. He operated outside of carefully crafted House rules when he evicted Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi and U.S. Representative Steny Hoyer. According to those on the House Rules Committee, the top Democrat there, ranking member Jim McGovern from Massachusetts, he served as the chairman of the Rules Committee before. He says the temporary speaker has one job only, to help elect a new Speaker of the House. He says, quote, as an unelected acting Speaker, Patrick Henry's job is to guide the House toward the election of a new Speaker. That's it. His power is constrained by the plain text of Rule 1, Clause 8 of the Rules of the House. The text, I don't think, indicates that he has any power to do this. The rule says he can only exercise as much authority as is necessary and appropriate towards the end of electing a speaker. The Rules Committee narrowly described this rule in 2004. An acting speaker serves, quote, for the sole purpose of electing a new speaker. These rules were put into place, by the way, after 9/11 to ensure continuity of government and quick election of a new speaker in an emergency. It's not to provide for a short-term, this is a quote, not to provide for a short-term speaker due to Republican dysfunction. So this whole thing with Pelosi, now Pelosi sort of shrugged it off. She said, great, that's what you guys, that's your top priority, is taking my office? Fine, you know.
Can I read this comment from John Slade while you have the picture up of McHenry?
Yeah.
He says, McHenry reminds me of that little kid in A Christmas Story.
He does.
He totally does. Yeah.
That's a great call. He really does. Yeah. All growed up. But that's the story on Pelosi's office. I also have, I have something going on that I'd like you, the audience, to maybe guess on. I think it is guessable. That's why I like this particular story. So let me do this quickly, and then I will turn it over to Kim's news. But first, I have this.
The Mark Thompson Show.
The football team, the college football team in Utah, they all got something. They all were gifted something. Every player in the Utah football program was gifted something. And I'm thinking it is guessable. What do you think it might be? What did each member of the Utah football team get? All 85 scholarship players found out they were getting this. Chlamydia, no. Crabs, no. Wow. Bribed to be Mormon, no. COVID, no. STD, everybody's got the STD on their mind. An air fryer said no. Gift cards to Chick-fil-A and Hobby Lobby, I get it. The politics matchup. A trip to Disneyland, that's a good guess. Bedazzled magical under garments. No. An education, a new car, a new truck, something like that, says David Morales. David Morales with a strong guess there. The actual retail price. They are all getting 2024 Dodge Ram 1500 Bighorn trucks.
Oh, wow. That's a lot of trucks. 85 trucks?
That is right.
Who's
85 trucks.
A new car!
That, it is a new car. Yeah.
Who's paying for that?
Dodge is paying for that. They're Dodge Ram trucks. Each player will get
Dodge
the use of a truck.
Ram tough.
They're Ram tough. By the way, as Kim says, that's pretty big. Yeah, 85 scholarship players, they're all getting that. How much is a Dodge Ram truck? Do you know? How much is a Dodge Ram truck, Kim?
I'm going to guess $75,000.
That's a very good guess. You are warm.
Okay.
You are very warm.
85,000.
85,000, you're cold.
Oh, okay.
A crappy MT Show coffee mug. How dare you? Who said that? Buck. Buck is always stirring the pot. You know what Buck needs from you? He needs a That's right.
If I think I'm the most honest human being, perhaps that God ever created.
We'll get to you in a second. $61,000 is right, Ron Cook. Yeah, nice job. And I'm sure that wasn't Googled at all.
Google it.
Someone really wanted to be right, and so he went to Google. The Crimson collected each player was gifted the use of a truck. It actually there are some strings attached. The lease on the truck is renewed at 6-month increments. It'll run through each player's time with the program as football players. This is actually given to them, by this automotive group with donors from the school involved. So this is not really a straight out donation from Dodge, so I misspoke. But it is from a dealer there and through donors who support the program. So,
yeah.
But the idea is that if they maintain their scholarship, they will continue with this gift. I will tell you something else about the gift, lest you think, oh my gosh, that's so lovely that they all... The trucks are wrapped with the logo of the, I believe, the logo of the dealership or, some kind of Utah Athletic. Let's see. The Crimson, they announced that it will be the logo FTW 360, for the win 360, adorns each new truck.
Imagine that parking lot outside the football frat house.
God, man.
85 trucks, brand sparkling new.
They've raised $3 million since May, this group of supporters. And they think that this will help raise more money. So that's what they're doing. It's a win-win, they feel. But brand new Dodge Ram 1500 trucks to all 85 scholarship football players in Utah. That's what's happening there.
The Mark Thompson Show.
All right, we do have a chunk of Trump to come. I will talk about his court case. He did leave in the middle of day 3. And David Katz will help decode a little bit of that. Also have a law and disorder that's pretty powerful. And news about fast food. And finally today, it's the planet stupid. And I have a couple of interesting stories that aren't going to bum you out necessarily. Sometimes we get to the planet, it's the planet stupid, and you go, oh my God, the planet, it's warming and we don't live sustainably. And it's just, there's something going on to eradicate malaria, which is the scourge of the earth, whether you realize it or not. It's sometimes hard for us to realize it in, the developed world that we live in. And it's more than just the developed world. Obviously, we live a basic lifestyle in America that sort of excludes malaria as a kind of thing that we think of top of mind. But it is the scourge of the earth. And there is a story that is so interesting in describing the effort to eradicate malaria. It's a sign of American ingenuity. American, I should say. I don't know why I said that. Human ingenuity is what I meant. And the idea somehow that, we can work with our environment, but also we can modify things such that maybe so many who are killed by this disease might never have to deal with it again. We'll also deal with planet warmth and all the rest. And the Pope weighs in on the planet as well. All of that still to come. Kim's News. Smash the like button like a boss, and we continue. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister, and this report is sponsored by Coachella Valley Coffee.
Drinking it right now.
You take a sip of that while I do a little news, and then we'll tell you about the exclusive Mark Thompson Show discount. But first, let's talk about what's going down at Kaiser. This week's 3-day strike by 75,000 Kaiser Permanente health system employees is the latest in a record-setting year for labor disputes. The number of workdays lost by labor disputes in the United States just through August is already the most for any full year since 2000. While the writer's strike ended last week after 148 days, the actor's strike is now on its 85th day, and the UAW strike is on day 21. Day 4 of the former President Trump's civil fraud trial will be held without the defendant. Yeah, this is his mugshot from another trial. Trump attended the first 3 days of the trial in New York City. Well, 2.5 really. He's now back in Florida. He and his family are accused of inflating Trump's net worth to get better loans, and the state attorney general is seeking at least $250 million in fines and a ban on Trump's company, the Trump Organization, from doing any business in the state of New York. Meanwhile, down in Georgia, prosecutors have filed petitions in 2 cases regarding alleged election interference. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution, reporting the district attorney's office, is seeking testimony from 6 witnesses outside Georgia, very similar to subpoenas filed when witnesses live in-state. The DA wants to hear their testimony in the upcoming trial of Kenneth Chesborough and Sidney Powell, both of whom face racketeering charges. They are among 18 defendants facing charges in connection with the 2020 election, including former President Trump. And we heard this week that some of the defendants are making plea deals in order to have their testimony heard. In one case, testimony damning to Sidney Powell. So looks like people are flipping like hotcakes over there. Today's funeral service for the late Senator Dianne Feinstein is being held in San Francisco, but now it's for invited guests only instead of the public. And the change was made last night because of security concerns. So the service is taking place this afternoon on the steps of City Hall in San Francisco, where Senator Feinstein served as the city's first ever female mayor. Of course, Feinstein died last week at the age of 90. Another funeral held today for a Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputy who was gunned down in his patrol car. Deputy Ryan Klickenbrummer was killed in an ambush shooting last month near the Palmdale Sheriff's Station. 30 years old, Mr. Klickenbrunner. He was a third-generation sheriff's deputy. He had just gotten engaged. Klickenbrummer's alleged killer, Kevin Salazar, has pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. So his funeral, Deputy Klickenbrummer's funeral happening today. Alabama's congressional map now has 2 districts for black voters. Look at that. The new map features one district with nearly 49% black voters, another with just under 52%. This comes after the Supreme Court upheld a 3-judge panel's decision that the previous map violated the 1965 Voting Rights Act. Yeah, you can't do what you were trying to do, you guys. The wife of embattled Senator Bob Menendez allegedly got a new Mercedes as part of a bribe after she damaged her car during a deadly accident. Police say reports in 2018 show Menendez's girlfriend, then now his wife, was found not to be at fault after she struck and killed a pedestrian in New Jersey. Federal prosecutors say 2 co-defendants in the ongoing bribery case bought her a new Mercedes if the senator would intervene in an unrelated criminal case. Democrat Menendez and his wife accused of accepting cash and gifts, and don't forget the gold bars, in a federal corruption case. Here in California, workers are getting more guaranteed sick time at their jobs. That's after Governor Gavin Newsom signed a bill granting workers a minimum of 5 paid sick days every year instead of 3. So we go from 3 to 5. Would like to note on the Mark Thompson show that we now have 5 sick days. All right. The California Chamber of Commerce says the new bill is a job killer. In a statement, the chamber writes the bill would create significant costs for California's businesses, especially small businesses, which may not be able to afford the mandate, forcing them to reduce jobs, cut wages, or raise prices. The governor says the new law is needed because too many workers decide to come to work sick because they're worried about losing pay.
Sure.
Travis Kelce says too much is being made of him and Taylor Swift. Really?
You think?
Oh, maybe not. I don't know. I don't think we can have a little more coverage on that. Don't tell it to the NFL, though. The New York Post.
There's never been anything like this.
Yeah, there really hasn't.
New York Post is reporting the league, the NFL, asked NBC, ESPN, Fox, and CBS before last weekend's games aired to air promos for Taylor Swift's concert film for free. NBC and ESPN did air the promos free of charge during their pregame show. So... And lastly...
She's good for business, so I guess they feel like, why not?
She's really good for business. And maybe Tony can find a picture of this last story while I'm talking. I don't know.
All right.
But just in time for Halloween, the San Francisco Bay Area is being invaded by baby spiders falling from the sky. What?
Wow. You just dropped that on Tony and you expect him to come up with a picture?
I do. Oh, I can't play because I'm playing sound, so I can't play the picture.
I don't know, yeah.
These baby spiders are arriving on sticky clumps of spider web. Dr. Fred Larrabee from San Jose State is trying to explain what it is that people are seeing.
What they're seeing is spider silk. Baby spiders perform a behavior called ballooning. Soon after they hatch, they disperse to new habitat to find new food and new places to hide so that they don't compete with their siblings. What they're seeing is...
Yeah, there they are.
Wow. So those are so what is that?
Spider clumps, silk from spider clumps, and it's full of baby spiders in search of food. He says they can float for miles. In fact, Dr. Larrabee says there have been reports of spiders being found in the upper atmosphere. When the sticky clump of spider silk lands, the spider either scurries out or has already jumped to safety, like a little spider parachute. Larrabee says this behavior is not isolated to any one species of spider, but he says if a clump of web lands on your head, be prepared for a tiny arachnid to crawl down your face.
Oh my God, that's just scary. Who was the doctor who was the expert on that?
Dr. Fred Larrabee at San Jose State.
Yeah, and he was working with Dr. Emil.
The
third. Yeah, that's right.
Look, Tony's got some great video.
Yeah, Tony came through with the
He's
the
my
pics.
guy. He does the good stuff.
He is pretty impressive.
Thanks, Tony.
Yeah.
Look at that. Look at it falling through the sky. I am telling you what, that is the stuff of nightmares.
There's Dr. Fred, too.
Yeah, he's cute, Dr. Fred.
Yeah, he's a good-looking man.
Yeah.
I love it.
Emil
That's not who it is. It's not Dr. Emil Schaffhauser.
If that landed on me, I would lose my ever-loving mind.
It would be a dramatic moment. I will give you that.
It would be cause for the spider dance. Have you ever done the spider dance?
Oh yeah, where you're slapping your head and your face and everything to get it off of you. Yeah.
Your knees up, dancing to the sky, trying to shake whatever it is off your body. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. This report is.
This does seem like it's like a horror movie. Kim unearthed this prehistory. Giant spiders, they seem like they could do the job. Spray huge webbing everywhere.
No.
Yeah.
This report is sponsored by Coachella Valley Coffee. We love them. They have the best coffee. They have the best tea, too. Coachella Valley Coffee offering the Mark Thompson Show listener an exclusive deal. You get 10% off when you go to the CoachellaValleyCoffee.com website. Just click around on there, find the stuff you want. Trust us when we say it's the best coffee. Even my husband has been converted. And then when you check out, you just enter Mark T all together, get your 10% off, which will save you a bit of money, and then enjoy your coffee and your tea. Yeah.
Yeah, I've said it before. I was saying this was the best coffee I'd ever tasted before they ever were on the show. So I've been drinking this coffee the last few years. I discovered them. I'm trying to remember how I discovered them, but once I just couldn't stop ordering. It's incredible. It's another like standard deviation better than the stuff I was drinking. I'm a coffee snob, sort of. I've got this insane, like the Ferrari of espresso machines. I have 3 Burr grinders. So I've tasted coffee in Vietnam, and I've tasted coffee all over Europe. I've tasted
business.
Armenian coffee, all the different, and I love coffee. But I'm telling you, these beans the very best I've ever tasted. You have to get the beans that are right for you, but go to the website and find the tasting notes that work, you think, for you. And then I would encourage you to, order whatever you want and grab that 10% discount. This is a fresh grow. That is to say, it's first crop. That's the reason their beans aren't super cheap. Like, you'll find a lot of inexpensive beans. The secret that you were never told is that that's old grow. Yeah, they're trying to dump that. So, of course, they discount the beans for you in a lot of places. At Coachella Valley, it's all fresh and it's all hand roasted. So, really love them. And I love, and still almost in a way can't believe that they sponsored the show in any way. So, very exciting.
I'm Kim McAllister. This is The Mark Thompson Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Shadow Stevens. This is the Mark Thompson Show. Keep it to yourself.
Who's Mark Thompson?
Yeah, what up, everybody? We will stand by with David Katz for the next hour. He is the former federal prosecutor who can talk a lot about, in an educated way, the legal issues facing Trump and his team, also others who are involved with Trump in J6 issues and all of the different court cases that are grinding on, Georgia, Florida, and in Washington as well. And as I mentioned to you, I have, apart from that, a quick little chunk of Trump. If you're ready, Tony, can we do it? And I can just give everybody, I think, a little Trump fix.
Open wide.
Ready?
Here comes your chunk of Trump.
It's my favorite food.
With your first bite, here's Mark Thompson.
I have a feeling it's going to be beautiful.
Well, as you probably are aware, Donald Trump bailed on his fraud trial on the third day. He was there for the first two, and then he fumed, it seems, sort of melted down there in the chair. And through the scowl, you could tell he wasn't happy. And outside the court, he complained in these hallway press conferences that his actual value is much more than they're saying, and that the values of his property is much more. We've detailed a lot of that already. But he has to come back in the coming weeks to testify because, remember, he has been subpoenaed, so he must testify. The appearance of Donald Trump prior to that in the last couple of days has been completely optional. He didn't have to be there, but he will have to be there to testify in the coming weeks. Remember, it's a $250 million civil trial at least. The penalties may exceed that. Meantime, as you might expect, the Trump people are announcing a $45.5 million haul. The indictments of the embattled former president really help him raise money. Donald Trump's presidential campaign announcing it pulled in $45.5 million in the third quarter of the year, outraised by a significant amount his lead opponent, Governor Ron DeSantis. The DeSantis campaign posted a $15 million haul in the third quarter. The campaign has also claimed it has $37.5 million in available cash, the Trump campaign does. In a press release, Trump's team said, while DeSantis's, this is the way they said it, while DeSantis's fundraising, like his poll numbers, has seen an exponential drop even from July, President Trump outraised his impressive $35 million haul in Q2, which doubled Q1 fundraising by more than $10 million. The Q3 numbers, again reading from the press release, are even more impressive, considering the summer months are usually when most campaigns experience lagging fundraising support. President Trump and his campaign have completely shattered that notion. Wow.
There's never been anything like this.
Well, anyway, the indictments in 4 different cases facing Donald Trump apparently have not hurt his fundraising abilities.
Crazy.
And the super PACs around Donald Trump continue to grow. And remember, that super PAC money goes into paying for his legal bills. So even as he has all these lawyers on staff and He has more and more of these various legal issues, to be polite about it. It will be paid, that bill, by Trump's super PAC. And they spent $27 million on legal fees so far in 2023. So it's an industry. The Trump fundraising is an industry, and he's doing it off of these court cases. The legal X's and O's will do with David Katz, but that's a little bit of what's going on with Donald Trump.
I just got an article from Newsweek messaged to me, and it's about Trump finding his new target. And he quotes Fox and Friends. He says that they've given up on Ron DeSanctimonious and they're on their next journey pushing, quote, Nikki Birdbrain Haley, I guess this is her new nickname, who stated loudly and often that President Trump was a great president and I would never run against him, Trump wrote on Truth Social. Well, so much for that. So now he's zeroing in on Haley as his next real threat.
In a way, that's not surprising because Haley's had some growth in her poll numbers as a result of her debate performance, probably. People are getting to know her. She seems like the coolest head. She's not, but she may seem that way. But that's probably why he's turned his turret of hate toward her. And I think that
should be dinged. For sure.
That's the great turret of hate.
The turret of hate should be, that's dingable for sure.
Yeah. That's your chunk of Trump. Oh, you have a close?
That's it for this edition.
Well, I really enjoyed it.
But make sure to join us again next time.
I think you might want to listen. There's nothing wrong with listening.
For another chunk of Trump.
There is news out of Ukraine.
The Mark Thompson Show.
And then there's news about another front in military hostilities. This from CNBC. A second war could easily erupt in Europe while everyone's distracted by Ukraine. Analysts have expressed concerns that relations between Serbia and Kosovo could tip into an armed conflict while the world is distracted by the war in Ukraine. From zero land wars in Europe, we could conceivably be looking at two very shortly. That's from Ian Bremmer, who does that Eurasia group. Now in its 20th month, the war in Ukraine remains the prime focus of Western powers. In the meantime, tensions escalating in another part of Europe. This is a brutal, complex conflict that was part of the 1990s. Analysts express concerns that relations between Serbia and Kosovo, tense at the best of times, they say, have become increasingly hostile in recent months, and violence has erupted in northern Kosovo in September. Belgrade responded with a military buildup on its border with its neighbor. Now there are concerns that the volatility in the southeastern region of Europe could tip into an armed conflict while the world is distracted by the war in Ukraine. Given the current political and security context, analysts say an outbreak of violence in northern Kosovo, quote, should raise alarm bells. This is the quote, resolving the dispute between Kosovo and Serbia is no longer just a political matter, but a serious security issue for the region and for Europe. For the U.S. and the EU, the choice is no longer just between the failure and success of the dialogue, but also between stability and a further escalation of violence. And the latter, that is to say the escalation of violence, is most likely unless they finally acknowledge Belgrade's role in destabilizing Kosovo and adopt a robust approach to counter it. Now, this has been, these hostilities that are underpinned by ethnic tensions. Northern Kosovo borders Serbia, ethnic Serb majority. The country as a whole is around 93% ethnic Albanian. The Serbian capital, Belgrade, does not recognize its neighbor as an independent state. That's what this is all going to be about. Mm-hmm. So without getting any further into it, I'd want to tease the fact that we'll visit this with someone who can speak in an educated way about this, meaning I'd love to address the history of the region, and then I'd like to really address the prospects for military confrontation with someone who's studied that region for quite some time. Because, as I say, it's against a backdrop of ethnic tensions and national tensions, and I think you need to have some sense of that history to really get some sense of what the future might be. So that's my thought on that. There's a major recall that is going to hit the airline business. You have stories from the sky, Tony? Mm-hmm.
I like a story.
We have clearance, Clarence.
Roger, Roger. What's our vector, Victor?
Enough is enough! I have had it with these monkey-fighting snakes on this Monday to Friday plane! Everybody strap in!
A major recall hits the airline business. America's biggest airlines ground planes as they launch desperate searches for thousands of jet engine parts sold with fake safety certificates.
What?
At least 126 engines across a number of airlines were found to include parts from a jet supplier company that's under investigation.
What?
Yes, I already said that.
What?
AOG
Warrants
Technics.
another what?
A middleman in the aviation industry, this AOG Technics, they're accused of mass producing fake safety certificates. Fears are mounting over the aviation industry's safety oversight measures amid this scandal. And major airlines, including American Airlines, United Airlines, and Southwest Airlines, have pulled jets from their fleets as investigations into the potentially catastrophic faults are ongoing. This is a pretty big deal.
That's not fake. That's real.
Exactly. The scandal has zeroed in on a dubious airplane part supplier, this AOG Technics, and supposedly they mass-produced these fake safety certificates in order to sell engine parts to the airlines. There you go. You can see a couple of them now.
Well, this makes me feel really great about getting on a plane.
I mean, it's...
How would you handle this? Yeah. We could try ignoring it.
I think I'm telling you this because it's important to know, you know. Now, they pulled a bunch of these planes off, as I said, and they have found in 126 engines across several airlines, they've found these parts, but they have to replace them, and there's a rush to replace them. And again, airline parts are supposed to undergo stringent safety tests, and that's what that certification is all about. But with this fake certificate, you don't have any actual stringent safety tests going on. You just have a fake certificate that is branding it safe.
Who's responsible for the fake certificate?
The FAA is saying, as well as investigators in Europe, that AOG Technics forged the documentation.
Busted.
But meantime, there could be disastrous consequences if one of these parts is faulty, right?
I mean, what will people do for money? Put human lives at risk.
And here is the other fact as you get into the story. The most affected engine model was found to be one which alarmingly holds the record for the most engines ever sold to airlines. Almost 34,000 engines sold to airlines. This part is currently installed in numerous jets across the world, most notably Boeing's predecessor to the 737 MAX and the initial version of the Airbus A320. Both are extremely common in flights across the world every day. So,
I mean, it goes from bad to worse.
It does. It does. The affected engine parts vary from small components like screws and bolts to units that are bigger, that are vital for the propulsion of a jet, like turbine blades. So it's across several different areas. It's not just like one part that has been misrepresented.
Can they pinpoint all the planes that have the non-certified parts in it?
They're trying to.
Yeah.
They're trying to. The investigators look at this potential scheme, and they find dozens of engines were inadvertently made by GE in a joint venture with this company. So this is a really complicated situation, and that's the reason they pulled so many of these planes off the tarmac. In the UK, where the company lists its address, a judge this week ordered the company to turn over its part sales documents, and the full extent of the scandal could grow as the records are assessed. Before the analysis began, Airline said they found 16 engines in their shops and a 110 number of engines in separate facilities that were fitted with parts from AOG Technics. The Wall Street Journal is reporting that the company serves as a middleman in this aviation industry by acquiring parts before selling them then to maintenance and repair shops. So these parts go everywhere. The company's been around since 2015.
That gives me a lot of security.
Yeah, it really is of concern. I agree. There's more on this, these falsified parts and the identification of them. It has to be done in a hurry. It has to be done aggressively, and supposedly it is being done that way. But I thought that story worth spending a moment on. It's pretty big. Biggest airlines in America, some of them, grounding planes in a desperate search for thousands of these jet engine parts sold with fake safety certificates.
Dear Lord. And you can't search for that. A lot of people, I'm sorry to interrupt you with your pointing. A lot of people search for planes that they will or will not ride on, right? Like, so you search for a destination you want to go, and then you look at what plane is making that flight. I don't do that because I don't know enough about planes, but a lot of people are very particular about which planes they will or won't fly on. And so now you have all these planes flying around with parts that aren't certified, and you can't search for that.
Right, exactly. I mean, they're searching for it too. So Randy says, I just flew on a Southwest 737 MAX yesterday. I'm assuming the plane I was on is safe. Exactly. You kind of assume we all do.
Right.
And Colors of the Wind says, if they did everything correctly, there's a database with every part number attached to every individual plane. Right. So that you have to retrace it. That's why that legal case that reveals every single part and where it went, it's critical. I'm flying to Europe in a couple of weeks, says Dillette. Yikes. Exactly. That story's from the sky for today.
This has been Stories from the Sky. The captain has turned off the seatbelt sign, and you are now free to move about the cabin.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Kim's News, David Katz, and more. Smash the like button like a boss. Smash that thumbs up.
Smashed it with your iron rod.
If you're just joining us, we are a crowd-funded show. We are just finishing our first year. We must tell you, we didn't think we'd make it. I didn't. In some ways, it's still hand to mouth a little bit.
Didn't think we'd make it.
Well, we have fundraising challenges. We've got staff here. We're not, I'm not a solo act. So we play in a band, and we like everybody in the band to, do well enough that they want to come to work. And honestly, to do that, we needed the help of our audience. And the audience has helped us and continues to help us. So appreciate that. If you want to join, there's a Patreon and PayPal link on our main website, which is themarkthompsonshow.com. themarkthompsonshow.com. You click on either one. And some of you have stepped up your Patreon and PayPal contributions, so appreciate that. That's the way stuff happens here, and we can make plans based on the fact that we know, that money's coming in, so we can, stay on the air for another month type thing. So it's exciting that we made a year. It really is, but we're looking to expand. And as I say to you, and this has nothing to do with money, but thank you for putting that crawl up there, Patreon or PayPal, those links are there, along with a bunch of other links on our main website, themarkthompsonshow.com. And that's our email address, I think, up there now. But what I would say is, I'd love for you to share the show on Facebook or on any other, even if it's a short, we put shorts up there, you can just share that. That helps us expand our footprint a bit. So it costs you nothing to do that, and it's a great way to help us grow this audience. So with that, I want to thank everybody who has sent us congratulations and is part of keeping the show on for a year. Kim's News and the great David Katz next.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. Vladimir Putin, just before I do the story, never really a reliable source when it comes to news, but here's what he has to say. It says, hand grenade fragments were found in the bodies of the victims of the plane crash that killed the head of a mercenary group. Former Wagner boss Yevgeny Prigozhin died in this August plane crash. It happened 2 months after he led his troops on a march on Moscow in a failed coup attempt, they call it. Vladimir Putin also said an investigation into the crash found no external impact on the plane. Again, words from Vladimir Putin. So take them as
his own
you
investigation,
will.
right?
Yes, apparently. What he wants us all to believe. The Biden administration is waiving federal laws to allow border wall construction in Texas in a policy reversal. The Department of Homeland Security announced the administration is waiving 26 federal laws for wall construction in South Texas due to high illegal entry. The move comes as a surge of migrants is straining federal and local resources. UAW President Shawn Fain is expected to address union members again tomorrow in discussion about the status of contract negotiations with Detroit's big three automakers. He has announced walkouts over the past couple of weeks and may include more locations tomorrow. There reportedly has been progress made in talks with Stellantis and Ford Motor Company, with Ford reportedly making a significant offer. Former President Trump is saying he wants a speaker because, it's all about what he wants, right? He wants a speaker of the House who would help him in the 2024 presidential election.
Yeah.
Forget about doing the business of the country. Who can help me? Yeah. Trump wrote in a Truth Social post he'll do whatever is necessary to help with the Speaker of the House selection process until the final selection of what he calls a great Republican speaker is made.
Cuatro años más.
Yeah.
The post comes after former Speaker Kevin McCarthy was ousted in a vote led by Florida Republican Matt Gaetz. Yeah. The former campaign treasurer to Republican George Santos of New York is expected to plead not guilty. Oh, my bad. Guilty. That's guilty to felony charges. Yeah. Court documents don't specify exactly what charges Nancy Marks is facing, but indicate that they are related to Santos's criminal case. She is scheduled to appear before a judge on Long Island this afternoon to plead guilty. X taking out headlines and texts from links before a thumbnail would accompany links along with the article's title and a line or two of text. Now, only the article's lead image is the thing that will be shown. This is because Elon Musk says it looks better.
Yeah. Well.
The WNBA is expanding to California's Bay Area. The Golden State Warriors have been awarded an expansion team that will begin play in the 2025 season.
Girl, you just woo.
That's right.
Because it is the women. Yeah.
The team will become the WNBA's 13th team. It will be the first new franchise to join the league since 2008. The Golden State WNBA team will share an arena with the Warriors, playing home games at the Chase Center in San Francisco. The Warriors are now the 6th NBA franchise to have a WNBA team. I don't know what they'll call it. Lady Warriors? I don't know.
I don't think Lady Warriors.
Golden Ladies?
It's not on the short list, I don't think.
There's never been anything like this.
Oh, there hasn't in the Bay Area. No.
I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Lastly, a device is in development that could let you control your dreams, because you have to have control over every little thing. Leave nothing to chance. San Francisco's Card 79 is partnering with New Mexico's AI startup Prophetic to build what the two companies call the world's first wearable device for stabilizing lucid dreams. Card 79 is best known for designing and building hardware for Elon Musk's brain implant company, Neuralink. You want to control your dreams? Isn't that kind of your subconscious letting out what needs to be let out? And if you control of that, then your subconscious, your body doesn't get to do what it needs to do.
Well, that's Act 2 of the movie. Act 1 of the movie is the exciting news that you can program your own dreams, and everybody's excited, and everyone seems so much happier. I'm resting so much better. And then Act 2 is what you're talking about, which is that it throws off the essence of you as a human being, and you become incredibly ill, and you start to go nuts and crazy, and you become unspooled, and you have all these frantic incidents, and that's Act 2. And then Act 3 is the resolution, because you need some doctor or someone to study to get in there and somehow make you better again and cure the human species. Yeah, you need Dr. That's exactly who you need. You need him to come in and cure everything.
I think we need to get together and write the screenplay. I think we could sell it. So. This is good. Really good.
Keep it going.
That's right. This show is crowdfunded, which means we do rely on you to help us support the show. Thank you for all you do. Please check us out at the website. It's themarkthompsonshow.com. You've got the Patreon link there. You've got the PayPal link there. Links to the podcast. Links even to the Mark merchandise. You find it all. themarkthompsonshow.com. And again, our thanks. I'm Kim McAllister on The Mark Thompson Show.
Hey, which one do you use, Mark Thompson?
Who's Mark Thompson?
The Mark Thompson Show.
Come on, everybody. All I'm talking about is one of our most popular guests as we round the corner and finish up our first year on the air, or whatever this is.
Is it the air?
It's not the air.
It's the something.
I was so excited when we got this guy. I've got to tell you something. I've said it before, but just because it is a year, I always loved him on Pat Thurston's show. And then when Pat Thurston's show went away, I said, can I reach out to him? She said, of course, absolutely, he's great. And then, of course, he's on, I've told you, London radio all the time and Fox News Channel. He's used by so many people for his keen legal analysis and his predictions. And he's really been spot on. And I just think he's, Incredible. He's the first and last word on legal analysis. So glad to have the former federal prosecutor, now he's a defense attorney, giving us his thoughts every Thursday. How about it for the great David Katz?
Hi, great to be with you guys.
Thank you so much, David. So let's jump right in. Give me the state of the state, please, legally, for Donald Trump, who seemed to kind of melt down as revelations about his net worth and about the value of the properties was revealed. He left that case as it continued in the courtroom. Give me the state of the state on him and many of his cronies who are also moving parts on this legal chessboard.
Well, we had this case in New York. The case in New York is very significant because it involves his empire. And David K. Johnston wrote colorfully that it was the corporate death penalty for Trump. And it's certainly not good news. Now, if he manages to win on appeal later on, it may not be such a death penalty. He may get relief. But for right now, you have to deal with what the trial court does. And what the trial court did was to grant a summary judgment. Now, nobody asked for a jury trial in this case. If they had, they might have gotten one, not clear under New York law. But no one asked for a jury trial. So when Trump throws his hands up in the air and says, where's the jury? Why don't we have a jury? Well, one reason, because your lawyers didn't ask for it. And number two, it might not have been granted, but you would have lost nothing if you really wanted it to at least ask for it. Had he had a jury trial, it would have been 6 members and it would have been 5 out of 6. So a 5-1 vote against him would not be a hung jury. It would be a verdict in the civil case against him. Anyway, he didn't have that. So it was a judge trial. The judge looked at all the papers that were filed before the trial and he said, there's nothing to try here. I'm only looking for 2 elements. One is, did you make a lot of false statements, which he and his sons, the judge found, had done for years? And did you disseminate them? Did you send them out to people like lenders and insurance companies? Well, he did that too. So there was nothing to try. Now, Trump keeps saying, well, nobody relied on it. Again, we used this last week. If you and I get together and you say your studio is worth $50 million, and I say my law office is worth $50 million, and we persuade some bank to lend us $100 million against that, and we build a building, and the building goes to $110 million, the banks haven't lost any money. Did what you and I do was kosher? No, it was not kosher. And if there wasn't a loss in that sense, it's still okay. So that's one of the non-issues in the case, and the lawyers keep bringing it up, and the judge says, go present that to the Court of Appeals, but stop wasting my time with it. He eventually sanctioned them $7,500 each, all of the lawyers. So when Trump saw how bad it was going, and that all that was going to be left in the trial court was a trial starting Monday on how much he should pay, whether $250 million or even more, because he'd been found liable for this fraud, for this violation of the New York statutes, which, by the way, they canceled his New York certificate to do business. He didn't need to be a New York company, but he was. So that's a remedy. If you're a New York company and you commit fraud, you commit those two elements, then they can cancel your business license. So he showed up basically to counter-program the trial, to go out at every single chance that he had and to scream Mark and say it was so unfair and to say a bunch of stuff that really was not germane to the case. What else is new? And one of the interesting things, if you want to get into it, was he brought the judge's law clerk into it.
Yeah, well, that's very much relevant because it speaks to the gag order, and that is so much a part of the Trump we know. He's a smack talker, and his followers do more than talk. They actually launch threats and are capable of violence. And so, yeah, please speak to that.
Well, he is a smack talker. Let me just say in general about these gag orders and the smack talking. Trump does not control anymore the FBI, the Marshal Service. He doesn't control the Department of Justice. He doesn't control the police or the apparatus in any of those courts or in any of those states. So to some extent, I do see it from Trump's point of view. He's very, very unhappy with what's happening. This is a free country. If you want to be foolhardy enough to say bad things about all these people, I do think that if the case goes to the appellate courts, especially if it goes to the U.S. Supreme Court with 3 members picked by him, I think that they may say that this is within his, just what I just said. It may be very foolish. Why would anybody talk smack about the judge and the system that controls your fate? But at the same time, if you want to do that, you probably can do that. And as to the threats of violence, right, they would say, well, they can monitor all of the threats of violence. Let me just say one thing. It may be very controversial. I don't want your mail to blow up, okay? But this law clerk for the judge, I was a law clerk to a judge. My name was never mentioned in court. A federal judge never says, what a great argument. Let me see what Mr. David Katz, my law clerk, thinks about that. Would you hold on a minute? The judge might go take a recess and might talk to the clerk. But apparently their style in that state court in New York is they do kind of bandy it about, and they talk about it right in front of the litigants, right in front of the lawyers. Miss Greenfield, what do you think? I need to confer with my law clerk, Allison Greenfield. And that was reported in the New York Times. So I think that the way that Trump and his gang got the name of this Allison Greenfield to run her Instagram was from it being mentioned in court and from her having her name mentioned in the New York Times, which for some people think is great fame. He tried to take it into infamy. That's what he always does. If you want to play on the Trump track and you think all you're going to get is a claim, you better pay a little closer attention. So I do have one question about it, and I don't mean to be such a contrarian all the time. But the judge, knowing that that was going to happen, knowing that she had an Instagram photo of her smiling, standing next to Democratic Majority Leader of the Senate, Schumer, smiling, mightn't he have said to her before the trial got rolling, why don't you take that down? Why don't I maybe have a different law clerk assigned for this case who doesn't have anything like that on the Instagram? Because if it were Biden being charged in Idaho or Texas in front of a state judge there, and the Democrats found out that the law clerk who was deeply involved in the proceedings had a smiling picture of her and Abbott, her and DeSantis, that it would be played up. Maybe not the coarse, crass way, but it would be disseminated. It would be sent out there, and the argument would be, hey, how come Biden doesn't have a fair judge? How come he has a state judge in Texas with a law clerk who's a huge fan of Abbott or DeSantis?
Such a great argument that you've made. I can see why you're a good defense lawyer and a good prosecutor back in your old days as a prosecutor. But I will say this, David, just to be fair to the argument, but I think you've made a compelling argument, as I just said, but they perverted this already potentially damning, I mean, put aside how actually damning it is. They perverted the actual fact. They took that picture of Chuck Schumer and the law clerk, and they presented it as his girlfriend. Now, again, maybe they were just using it in the vernacular of, the girlfriend. It was like a slang kind of thing. His girlfriend, like, his homegirl, whatever in Trump world, they play it for real. Like that's really his girlfriend type thing. When in truth, it's just a politician who takes a picture who he's not even going to remember it 4 seconds later, right?
Palling around. But again, if you want to try to figure out what Trump is going to use against you, think a little out of the box, think a little, put yourself in his shoes, that he would use the expression girlfriend when there's a picture of her standing next to Schumer and they're both smiling. Schumer may have chosen to take a picture with anybody who wanted a selfie, but guess what? She wanted to take a picture with a big Democratic politician. From their point of view, she's from New York City. She went to NYU. You know exactly how they're going to depict it. So I'm just saying, if I were the judge, and there's a lot of really smart law clerks, maybe for this case, right? At the very least, she deletes the social media post. I know they're going to go back and find it anyway. Maybe it's really better in a case like this. Be Caesar's wife if you're the judge. There's really smart law clerks, okay? Take a different law clerk from that case and ask them first, what's on your social media? Because is it predictable that Trump would do exactly what he did, that he would use that expression, girlfriend, palling around? And yes, his fans might take it one way, but is it actionable to call somebody's girlfriend? I mean, there's other words you could have used that would really get you in trouble. And that was one that, again, Trump went close to the line and he figured that's an expression. Now, I think what happened is the judge went back and said, if you make any more comments about any member of my staff, I'm going to lock you up. And he didn't want to get locked up. But he may go to the higher court, Mark, and appeal this or say he is being gagged. See another example how the judge is so unfair. He threatened to lock him up. Now he has to walk on pins and needles because he's so worried he's going to get locked up for exercising his First Amendment rights. Some higher court needs to intervene, the First Amendment. Try to eliminate those problems. This is always my advice to Fonnie Willis down there in Georgia. Think it through. Think what he's going to do when you drag him over to that horrible penitentiary, that horrible prison near Atlanta, Georgia. Think about the fact that he's going to play up the fact that it's a hellhole that's never been taken care of by the Democrats, and they're threatening them with this torture of being in this place, and that he's going to arrive with his caravan and his huge Trump plane and say, you know what, maybe I should let him appear just by telephone for the hearing. Maybe this isn't really working out my way to drag the former president. Her fans love it, and his fans hate it. Just figure it out. Just figure out not just the law, but figure out the optics of it. That's all I'm saying.
Just to follow up on that, David, is it reasonably something that could be done? The judge would, I always imagine this blizzard of stuff that a judge has to do before the case proceeds. You're saying you would add to that blizzard figuring out who's got an Instagram feed that could be damning?
Why not? Wouldn't you do that if you were trying this is the biggest case in state court, but in the history of the United States, biggest civil case, maybe the criminal case against Aaron Burr in New York was bigger, but I think those are the only two competing in U.S. history for the biggest biggest case in the history of the state courts of New York. So yeah, so maybe think it through that they're going to get all the social media on your law clerk, especially if she's appeared in the New York Times under her own name. I mean, when I was a clerk to a federal judge, if someone would have asked my name from the media, I guess they could have looked it up. But, if you say, I'm David Katz, and I went to NYU Law School, I went to Berkeley's Law School, and this and that, it's so nice to meet a reporter for the New York Times, and my name gets in the paper. I mean, you're almost a public figure at that point once you go over, right, in a case like that. And so, should she get dragged through it? Maybe not. Will they get dragged through it in Atlanta, Georgia, if they don't look out for the optics? I just think that they will. Let me make one comment about the person who flipped down there in Georgia and apparently has some very damning testimony against Sidney Powell. Okay. Now you hear, I know I always sound like a contrarian. Someone said, why does David Katz always stand up for the defense? Well, one thing, I'm a federal criminal defense attorney, but I also get it. I really do get it. It's important that everybody's rights are respected. No one's above the law, but no one's beneath the law, right? That's the principle that made our country great. So person is involved in this terrible thing. They went into this rural county in Georgia and they did dastardly things. And this man ought to be in that horrible hellhole of a prison in Georgia for 5 years. She says at the press conference, a mandatory minimum of 5 years. Then there's a debate about it. Now he wants to cooperate. He wants to help the prosecution. Guess what? Now it's not a felony at all. Now it's a misdemeanor. And now he doesn't need to serve even 1 day anywhere near jail. So when you have a witness like that, when that person testifies against Sidney Powell, that's why we say there has to be corroboration, because there's great concern that to not go to that horrible prison in Georgia for even a day and not for 5 years, that he would tell just about anything that the prosecution wants to hear. And that's why it's so important to corroborate people like that. And Mark, that's easier today because you have emails, you have all these text messages that are sent, you have surveillance cameras that are sitting around everywhere. So he probably can be corroborated. I'm just saying people really ought to be wary. People say, why are so many people in prison? Why are so many minority people in prison? Well, a lot of times because somebody ratted them out because they were so scared of jail themselves and they embellished. Look out for that.
I guess deals are made all the time, though, aren't they, David Katz? I mean, that kind of deal that you just described is pretty, sort of a de rigueur. It's kind of just what's done.
That's exactly how the system works. The system would come to, and the prosecutor argues back, look, if you want to find people who are involved in this crime that I'm prosecuting, you don't go to the College of Bishops. You don't find, right? You don't find priests as your witnesses. You find the fellow gangbangers. You find the guy who went down to that rural county in Georgia with her, the bail bondsman, and committed crimes with Sidney Powell. By the way, if I'm giving predictions, that's a very interesting case, Mark, because it's starting jury selection in about 2 weeks for the people who are entitled to a speedy trial and who asked for them. So that's Sidney Powell, who I think is in big trouble, not just because of that fellow rolling over on her, but I think because of a lot of things. But I think that what I've heard of this Chesebro or Chesbro, the lawyer, the Harvard Law School educated lawyer who worked on the Gore-Bush campaign, boy, I don't know. I think what they're going to end up saying against him is that you said that those electors were qualified, and they weren't qualified by anything but the Republican campaign. They weren't qualified by anything but Trump's campaign. And when you said that they were duly qualified, that meant that they had picked by law, that the legislature had picked them, that some official, neutral official in government had picked them, and therefore they were qualified. And all that qualified meant was qualified by the Republicans. And if that's the best piece of evidence that they have, is the jury going to convict beyond a reasonable doubt an attorney for giving that advice? Because by saying, use the word qualified, he knew how deceptive that was when they were only qualified by the Republican campaign. I guess we're going to find that out. But that is, if you're looking for a case that might end in an acquittal, that's the one. I don't think it's Sidney Powell's. I think it's that Harvard Law educated Kenneth Chesebro.
Wow. Yeah. And he is another one who wanted that fast trial. So things are kind of being fast tracked. This is a question that came in. Let me just try to, Kim, can you read it, please? Because I can't quite make it out.
Sure. It says, easy one for Mr. Katz today. How far will Trump have to go to face tangible consequences for trash talk about anyone not on his defense team? And then facetiously, Scott Rittenberg asks, will he go after the janitors for not dusting off his seat? That one's optional.
So the tangible consequences, I think he means jail. Will he be remanded to custody and locked up? That's something I think Trump is very, very scared of. They might take whatever that thing is on his head. They might take that off, and the whole world could see what's really on his head, because they do that in jails. His Secret Service being in there. Despite that, it's a very scary place, and we think that they'll never have him really have a threatening moment with any other prisoner or with the terrible conditions in a lot of our jails and prisons. And these are the holding cells, where just a lot of unpredictable things can suddenly happen. With the Secret Service, they probably won't. Is Trump scared of that? Yeah, he is. That's why he didn't push it after he got admonished by that state judge, Engoron, in New York City just a couple of days ago. He didn't push it with the judge. And he's going to try very hard not to push it. By showing up in court, he takes the chance that the judge tells him, do this, do that, and he has a tantrum and he gets held in criminal contempt just like that. And the judge said, you just violated my order. That's 2 days in jail. Bring your toothbrush. So he's very, very worried about that. And I think that's one reason why he's not going to show up in either one of those federal courts unless he has to, because those so I think he's going to try very hard to avoid it. But the trash talk in terms of consequences, a judge might fine him, and he might like as someone said, when he showed up in that court in New York City, right, he got more publicity than he would at any rally in Nashua, New Hampshire. Yeah. He took all the oxygen out of the room again, right? And they didn't. Why does he have a right to have a press conference right outside the courtroom in a government building? You don't have a right to do that in federal court. In federal courthouse, right or wrong, they say no cameras allowed. And that's why we always see people outside of the federal courthouse, right? On the courthouse steps. They're not allowed to do that. Did anyone think that through? I don't know. Maybe they think that they're really vindicating his First Amendment rights to let him blast away at the judge at every break, but they allow him to do that in New York. Again, not thinking through the optics that this is not a normal trial. And within validating his due process rights, they ought to think through the optics of this situation. And so, no, I think that he can trash talk quite a bit. And I think what he's ultimately going to do with these gag orders is take them up to the higher court. He wants to set it up right. So a lot of it is baiting these judges. A lot of it is to get the judge to say something that'll sound really good in a brief to conservative appellate judges, maybe all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court and the 3 that he nominated.
That's fascinating. That really is. I just want to follow up on that for a second. David, would it have been possible for the judge in the New York case, in this fraud trial, to, as you say, think it through and say there will be no, essentially issue an edict from the bench that there will be no press conferences or other remarks made publicly outside of my courtroom on the grounds of this New York courthouse? Could he have done that?
He probably would have had the chief judge have to do that. And the chief judge might have thought, this makes it look like, do I have it in for him? How is this? Maybe he did think through the optics and he figured, you know what, better to have him go vent out in front of the courthouse somewhere where it was safe and where he could be protected. If he had to go out to the street, someone throws an egg at him, something really weird happens because where he's going to be each break, he's going to come out in a more public area right in front of the courthouse on the courthouse steps. So maybe somebody did think that through.
Also, I would just ask, because I'm seeing it in the comments, what does Trump need to say that becomes actionable when it comes to the judge? Let's leave the clerk out now. Let's just talk about, because the judge is a Marxist, Democrat, whatever he says, he's had it in for me since the beginning, et cetera. At what point is there a threshold? What roughly could that threshold be?
Well, I think that he can basically say that. Again, I don't agree with him. I don't think it's wise.
But your view is he can say whatever he wants about the judge, is kind of what you were saying.
I think about the judge, he can say I think if he makes a specific factual allegation, that judge took a bribe a year ago from Mr. Smith, okay? That might get to the point where it's so far not an opinion. It's so a false assertion of fact that I think, just like you can't say that about just about anybody. But all of the adjectives, which is what he loves to throw around, they're all opinions. Now, in terms of tainting the jury pool, I've heard that argument over and over again. And Kim and I actually talked about this. How can you really taint a jury pool? Doesn't everyone have an opinion about this case? And what I said then, and I still believe, there are some people who don't watch the news. They're worried about their kids. They're worried about some other issue. They just don't like politics. But they vote, and they sign up for, or some of them don't even vote. But anyway, they get called for jury duty, don't they? So you are hoping to have people like that, and you think, well, maybe those people can be tainted. But I think as a rationale that by him making a comment, you're tainting the jury pool, there is such saturation coverage that to me, it ends up looking selective. It looks like saying, I didn't like that one remark. That one tainted the jury pool, not realizing it really is kind of a drop in the ocean by now. I mean, sure. It's nonstop, right, all day long. And you can certainly say things. Again, I don't think it's wise, but you can say that your judge is part of the deep state. You can say that your judge is deranged. As I say, nobody does that except Trump. Senator Menendez will never, ever do that about any of the people in his case. But Trump wants to try the case in the court of public opinion. And I think that he knows deep in his heart and his head, that the evidence is so overwhelming in all of these cases, except the New York criminal case, the hush money to the porn star. All the other three cases have just overwhelming evidence against him.
I don't think you don't need to go deep into his heart to find the realization.
Don't talk to me that way.
All right. So
this one in New York is deep in his pocket. I don't think he thought through what losing his business certificate would mean and having to go to a receiver before he takes a dime. You know, he can't loot these companies. He can't make a sweetheart deal and sell them to Ivanka or to a friend. He can't sell them to a Russian who suddenly wants to pay a high price for them. You know, he sold a property down in Florida for some ridiculous inflated price to some Russian. And there's credible evidence that it was money laundering. But I guess
same thing happened in New York at his properties in New York. Exactly the same thing.
So I know.
I think that I saw David Johnston's show that you did. It was wonderful, from Brussels.
Yeah.
And he said, you know, he figured out the guy shows up with a bag of money. It's like, well, I'm not going to ask any questions to bag of money, but guess what? You're going to pay 10% more for the property. And he said there's really evidence. There's really evidence of that happening over the years with Trump.
Yeah. So, Kim, go ahead. Sorry. Do you have something, Kim? No? Kim?
Now you call on me. Yes.
Well, I mean, I can't. The man's making a comment. I can't stop him in the middle.
It's all true. So, and I don't even know how important this is, honestly, but it is breaking news today, and it's pertinent to having David Katz on with us today. Trump's attorneys, and of course they're going to try to throw everything that sticks to get these charges against him dismissed. But today they asked the federal judge in Washington, D.C. to dismiss his election interference indictment, claiming he is protected from prosecution in that particular case by presidential immunity. So since they made the claim today, I wonder if there's any there. Is that a real argument they can make, and does it have any merit?
Well, there are different conspiracies in the D.C. case. One is a conspiracy to have these false slates. That's what this Cheeseboro down in Atlanta state court is charged with. But that's one of the overall conspiracies that, remember, only Trump is charged. Some people are charged as unindicted co-conspirators there, but the only one charged is Trump. So whether Trump can have slates certified in these various states, it seems to me very far-fetched. I don't see what the presidential privilege is going to be. There may be some other things that they claim are covered by this presidential privilege. You know, what people have talked about is executive privilege. Executive privilege is usually in foreign affairs. That's kind of gotten lost in all of this. But when the president says, you know, we really need to back up Ukraine with these weapons and do this and do that, and I'm acting as the executive, and you want now my aide that I talked to about that to go testify in Congress or in court, that was the classic executive privilege. Anything that looks sort of political and corrupt like this wasn't even covered by the executive privilege. So this presidential privilege thing, I think this one is going nowhere. They say, the Department of Justice and Jack Smith, that a lot of these requests are just to delay. Give the court something to do, delay, no matter how fast the court acts on them. They'll say, we didn't have time. We were following motion X, Y, and Z. We didn't have time to prepare for the trial in March. And they've said that this is really a gimmick. The Department of Justice said this is a gimmick by Trump and his lawyers. They should all be shot down. They should be summarily denied because otherwise we won't keep the March date. And this is the only case that I think can go to trial before the election. I think it's the only case that maybe will change voters' minds so that they'll say, you know what, wait a second. Maybe we should go with DeSantis or somebody else, because this guy, he's got legal problems all day long. And now on top of it, a jury, 12 people just came in, and 3 of them were not the Washington, D.C. stereotype that we have. You look at the jurors, they were really a diverse group of people. There are probably going to be Republicans on there. There'll be white people on there, and all 12 of them convicting Trump. I think that's one. And so the system really wants the trial to go by then. And I think that the judge there says it's in the public interest that we know guilty or not guilty from a jury by March. There may be other public interests in you or I having delays in our trial because we need more time. We have really legitimate reasons. But here, when you look at the public interest in people knowing this trial has to go by March, that's what I think they're going to ultimately take up to the U.S. Supreme Court and say, no, the public interest is only a personal interest. And if you need more time to get ready, and that's why I think the lawyers are going to try to do everything, and the government's going to keep saying no, that what they were doing was all surplusage. It was all besides the point. It was also, they could say, we filed 10 motions. That's what we were doing. And the judge is going to say, you can file 100 motions, but March is when the trial starts. You better be ready. And I think they're going to run up to the appellate courts in about January and say, we did everything that we could. We couldn't get ready. This is a rush to judgment. It's only because he's a Republican president, blah, blah, blah. And I think that's the hill that they're going to fight on. The hill they're going to fight on is to move that March trial to a date just before or just after the election so that it doesn't impact the voters and that Trump wins.
Wow. That's terrific. I love it. David, we're out of time. You mentioned the Supreme Court. I'd love to next week maybe address a couple of the other things that don't relate to Trump.
Can I mention one real quick? Because we talked about this, the Consumer Protection Agency. A lot of people thought that the U.S. Supreme Court was going to say, because they're so anti-regulation, this Consumer Protection Agency is the one that Senator Warren fought for. It was stopped by the Republicans forever. It goes after things like payday lenders that charge like 100% interest. It goes after pretty raw fraud. It's a government agency that absolutely should exist and be funded. The Republican interest groups, the Chamber of Commerce types, I don't know why they fight for these scammers. I think they ought to say, we don't want to help the scammers, give twice as much to this agency. But that has not been the business establishment. They have fought this court, they fought this agency over and over again. Their latest argument is that it's funded by the Federal Reserve, Mark. It's not funded by a normal appropriations bill.
That's how they're trying to bring this case, right? They're trying to
argue that under the Constitution, everything has to be funded by an appropriations bill. As Justice Kagan just said, that's interesting because for 250 years, we funded things by other than appropriations bills. And even the conservatives, if you want to call Kavanaugh and Roberts conservatives, seemed very unfriendly to the argument. It looks like the consumer agency will survive, that its funding will be permitted. And that's some good news from this Supreme Court. That's some good news that the argument went so well for consumers.
Good news and surprising news for all the reasons that you just mentioned. Yeah, didn't expect it. Really didn't. And I thought that it would be used, maybe not as a template, but it would be one more brick in the wall that they are building against regulation. So I see the EPA sort of falling into the same category when it comes to regulation and trying to get around it one way or the other. And as you say, this is a surprise. I'm so glad that we spent a second on it. Thank you, David. David, so grateful for your contributions, and we'll talk next Thursday. Great.
Wonderful to be with you. Hi, Kim.
Hi, Kim. Hi, bye, Kim. David Katz, everybody. Love it.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah, David Katz, very, very good. Lot going on.
Awesome. Yeah.
Good to keep him on. I know he doesn't always, give you the sermon that the congregation wants to hear, but he gives you the truth, which is really cool. Why haven't we done these acknowledgments along the way?
I tried to, but then you were into something else, and so you didn't see it on the screen. And then I thought, well, you're on to another topic. So
I see. Why. Okay. Anyway, I do want to acknowledge them, though. So will you? You'll take care of it. Wes, who is a great supporter of us since the very beginning. Shout out.
Big shout out.
I think he sent us an email too. I'll have to check. Not sure, but thank you, Wes. Thank you to Sharon Kidd, who is happy anniversary of the Mark Thompson Show. What a big shout out. Sharon Kidd, a huge supporter of ours, and thank you for your support as we round the corner for 1 year. Pretty cool. Pamela, are you kidding me? A super sticker for $50? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Pamela Kirby for $50. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pamela, for real. You're, one of our regular supporters again. Winthrop, big shout out.
Big shout out.
Happy anniversary in caps. Wishing y'all many more years. Thank you, Winthrop. Thank you for the $5. Really, really cool. These notes that I didn't realize. PT points out, today, October 5th, is the 1-year anniversary of the last full day that KGO broadcast News Talk Radio. Tomorrow, October 6th, will be the 1-year anniversary of when Mark was summarily taken off the air. Summarily is a ding word.
Yeah.
Well, let me just say, speaking PT, I wasn't summarily taken off the air. The station was taken off the air. So you make it sound personal, and I don't mean to be too sensitive about it, but now maybe they should have taken me off the air prior, but they didn't. Croquet film. Congratulations on your 1-year anniversary in a 10 spot.
Big shout out.
Thank you, Croquet Film. Yeah. And Susan W. Wow with $50. I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry. All of you who have contributed so much today. I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry. But I want to cry. Tracy Pyers for a 20. Big shout out.
Big shout out.
Tracy, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Luis. Hi, gang. Headed to Vegas to see U2 at the Sphere. Yeah,
That sounds fun. Yeah.
Even the little Instagram stories I've seen on that look amazing.
That's going to be a great show, Luis.
Yeah. Do you have a staff of good luck and winnings that you can bestow on me? I promise to share my winnings with you if I hit the jackpot. He hits us with a 10.
Big shout out.
A big shout out. I will, to everyone who's contributed today and who's supported us through the year, I will. Give me a moment. It takes a moment. Now, Luis and everyone, you need to be in a position to receive. You know who I'm talking about. All of you who've been so part of things today. Receive.
Receive the rod of equity and mercy.
Again.
Receive the rod of equity and mercy.
And with it, you have a lifetime.
Receive the rod of equity and mercy.
The energy need never be recharged. You have it forever. Thank you, Luis. Thank you, Pinky. Thank you, all of you. Pamela, etc. A big day, and I thank you. Jason says, you too can find the Turret of Hate's new album. It's called They Indicted Me. It's at a warehouse record near you.
I did everything right, and they indicted me.
Yes, it happened. It happened. What a country, though, huh? What a country. This guy may be re-elected. Insanity. Mark, it could never happen. It could never happen. Well, all right. I think you said that in 2016, didn't you? Now, I will. Heather says, isn't driving a Dodge truck. Oh, this is about the Dodge truck thing. Because the entire scholarship crew at Utah, in college there, they all got Dodge trucks. Isn't driving a Dodge truck embarrassing enough without ads all over? Because it is wrapped in ads. Well, Heather, first of all, what does this say? The truck's radio only plays the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. I get it because it's, because it's Utah. Yeah, that's your joke there. I get it. Well, I'm sure they're very happy to be, there it is. Tony found the Instagram story with the Dodge trucks that they've all received there in Utah. Pretty cool that they all got the trucks. I mean, if you're a college kid playing football and you get a $61,000 truck dropped on you, it's pretty great. So,
thanks, Tony.
Yeah, thank you for pulling that together. There it is. If you're watching on YouTube, the picture. 1 year in the rearview mirror, says Harry Magnan. $5.
Big shout out.
Thank you, Harry. Looking forward to the next decade. Yeah, let's hope we keep it going. That'd be great. I will mention again that we have a meetup coming up. So let me just...
The Mark Thompson Show.
It's a week from tonight. It's a virtual meetup. If you want to be part of it, we'd love to have you. It's fun. We enjoy visiting with everyone. We've limited it to 20 because we want to be able to actually interact with people. If you have too many people on, you can't. Hey, Tony, we can't use StreamYard, right? It's a Zoom call. That's how it works?
Yeah.
Because there are too many people. Is that why, Tony? No, maybe Tony can't.
Yeah. StreamYard has a limit of 10.
Okay, so that's the reason. So we make it 20. We make it a Zoom call. It's the same thing. We send you a link. Everybody made it no problem last time. You've got those visuals again. We'll just quickly review it. If you want to be part of it, we'd love to have you. It's a week from tonight. It's our 1 year anniversary virtual meetup. Again, anniversary night will start at 7 o'clock. It'll be 2 hours, 2 glorious hours. 7 to 9 p.m.
What?
Yeah, October 12th. If you want to be part of things, again, we'll limit it to 20. Just RSVP to mtsmeetup@gmail.com. mtsmeetup@gmail.com. It's a $50 donation. It's to raise money for the show, of course. But most of all, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. We'll have special guests. Kim will be there. I'll be there. The crew, the team. People will float in and out. People like John Daly, Spencer Christian. These are all people who've been helpful to us and who you might know. And there it is. Special guests, myself and the team. Please join us if you'd like. And again, it's mtsmeetup@gmail.com. That's the word on that.
The Mark Thompson Show.
It is a week from tonight. Now, Kim.
Yes.
My studio clock is a little bit...
12:54.
Yeah,
I tell you that I met a listener yesterday?
No.
In person. I got to meet Janet R. She was in Petaluma. So I cruised over to her place of employ and we had a little hug and hello in the parking lot. It was a quick 5-minute, just a little meet and greet, but that was really fun. Really nice.
Oh, that's great. Her place of employ. I love the way you say that. That is cool. Dan Ashley, shout out. Right. Square. We have to get we're going to connect with Dan Ashley too, I thought.
Yeah.
I put Albert in charge of all of that, like reaching out to Raj Mathai and Dan Ashley. Sometimes when you put Albert in charge of things, it, it's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to reach out
Albert,
to...
thank you.
Well,
but we'll get everybody on board.
Yeah.
Can I do one more story, though, that I'd like to do? Because I kind of advertised it in the...
Sure.
Yeah, and I feel like I've got to bump It's the Planet Stupid, which I hate to do. But, David Katz is going so well, I didn't want to interrupt that.
It's all true.
All right, so let me give you a bizarre story that, in a way, may not surprise you. In another way, it's just astounding. So,
The Mark Thompson Show.
An Airbnb guest squatting at a home for 500 days wants the owner to pay her a $100,000 relocation fee if you want her out. She's been squatting at a luxurious guest house overlooking the hills of Los Angeles for more than a year and a half. Elizabeth Hirschhorn rented a long-term stay at Sasha Javanovich's Brentwood guest home. That was in September of 2021.
She rented a long-term... What's a long-term stay?
So 6 months was the agreed-upon time period. It was $105 a night, with fees bringing the total for the 6 months to $20,793, according to court documents. By the way, this property is right around the corner from where I used to live. But I mean, I used to walk by this house every day. This house, if you want to think of it like, that's my neighbor's house. From the neighborhood that burned. Clearly, their house did not burn.
It's kind of a strange-looking, boxy house.
It's kind of a cool house. It's funny you say that, because I agree. It is strange-looking, but we used to walk by it all the time, and look, that is like a corrugated metal that it's on the front facade. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But anyway, her Airbnb stay ended in April 2022, and she's been living there rent-free ever since then, since April of 2022.
This is a nightmare.
A judge ruled that under the city's rent stabilization ordinance, Jovanovich has no legal reason, Jovanovich is the person who owns that place, has no legal reason to evict her under Los Angeles' recently adopted just cause ordinance. Unless you have just cause, I guess you can't get rid of somebody.
How about because she hasn't paid anything?
Really? And listen to this judgment from the bench, from the court. Would be required to pay her a relocation fee if you want to evict her. It's the home of the tenant until the landlord gets a judgment, however distasteful that is to your client. So they've got to go through the courts now.
Who's this guy?
This guy is Jovanovich. Okay, the owner of the place.
Okay.
In an email to Jovanovic's lawyer, Hirschhorn's attorney argued $100,000 is what her client wants. It's, quote, the cheapest way of getting the whole ordeal behind us.
Okay, let's just recap. She pays $20,000 for 6 months. She wants $100,000 to leave the property?
Yep.
He has to pay her $100,000 to get out. Are you joke busting me?
Yeah. It's a pretty
way.
galling thing. Quote, it is the home of the tenant until the landlord gets a judgment, however distasteful that is. And Hirschhorn's attorneys also argue that she should not pay rent. She should instead be paid back the $20,793 that she's already paid. Because the city never approved the guest house for occupancy, and its shower was constructed without a permit.
Oh,
so
please.
She's going to argue that through attorneys that invalidates the whole deal. After she was caught, this is Jovanovic's attorney speaking. She's the tenant from hell.
Yeah.
If she's right, the theory is that if a landlord has something that isn't permitted, then you can stay in it rent-free forever. According to court documents obtained by the LA Times, Jovanovich and Hirschhorn were cordial for the first few months that she was staying at the guest house, exchanging niceties when their paths crossed, sharing tea and small talk. That's how it all starts. The trouble apparently began about 5 months into Hirschhorn's stay when she complained her electronic blinds stopped working. When Jovanovich went into the unit to repair them, he noticed water damage and signs of mold around her sink, which he claims were not there before she moved in. He offered to pay her to stay at a hotel for 5 days while his contractor handled those repairs. Jovanovich even offered Hirschhorn $1,500 toward any other hotel than the ones that he suggested. But Hirschhorn declined, writing back, quote, I don't feel safe being forced to vacate with a housing disability and the high risk of COVID-19 complications. And so this whole thing continued. Now she claims that, again, she shouldn't have to leave unless he ponies up $100,000.
The audacity.
Right.
Honestly.
Which is a dang word. Yeah. It's dueling lawsuits, and it's pretty wild.
Terry says the owner should turn off the power and the water and everything else.
Yeah.
Turn it all off. That's it.
Yeah. It's pretty incredible. Anyway.
Nancy says, try the Tiger Woods approach. And he had his girlfriend pack her bags for a trip and change the locks when she was out. I'm sending you on an all-expense-paid vacation. Yeah.
As these cases make their way through the court system, Hirschhorn is continuing to live on Jovanovich's property. And by the way, it's like a war where no bullets are flying, he says. Every time I open the door, I'm afraid she'll be leaving at the same time. Her door is a few feet from my daughter's bedroom. We don't sleep well anymore. That is the brutal reality. Pretty wild, huh? That is your Airbnb guest from hell, as he says. So,
The Mark Thompson Show.
It really is pretty crazy. And it's pretty crazy that house is like, literally, it's 1, 2, 3 houses down from where I used to live. It's really just
nice neighbor. She could be your neighbor.
Yeah, I'm glad I got out just in the middle. Square says Pacific Heights, the movie.
Yeah.
That is a great movie for just this thing. Yeah, it really is true. And you don't know what she's going to do now, right? When you get her out of there, how she's going to handle it. So, she could trash the place. Then you have to go back to court to get her for that. Pretty insane. So, I want to thank everybody who participated in today's show. David Katz, chief among them. We got to a lot of different stuff today. I do want to get to more greetings, which I was sort of into earlier, but in the first half hour tomorrow, we're going to play a couple of audio greetings that I didn't get to yet today. can you put up the address for greetings again, please? Do you see that address anywhere? If you want to send us a greeting, you can send it to this address. No?
30 seconds and under. There it is right there. Happy anniversary MTS at gmail.com.
Happy anniversary MTS at gmail.com. You can send a video, an audio message, or if you'd like, we'll just give a dramatic read of your email, which we appreciate as well. Kim is next at the After Party Live.
We'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Yeah. Bye-bye. Thank you, everybody. You've all been great. Love that we're finishing up our first year. Look forward to another one. Till tomorrow. Bye-bye.